Welcome to Q&A practice. We'll start out with the defense attorney. Ready? Here we go. So during that interview, did you in fact tell Detective Little that the female did not appear upset or distressed? Yes. Thank you. And you gave some testimony today regarding some underwear that was placed on your gun belt? Yes. And you didn't place that there, did you? No. You didn't like that, right? No. And so that event stood out in your mind, right? Yes. And you knew that someone placing a pair of underwear on your gun belt was inappropriate conduct, right? Yes. And as soon as you discovered it, you knocked the underwear off and they fell to the ground, right? I believe they fell to the ground, yes. I just knocked them off. And you never placed the underwear on the lamp, did you? I don't recall doing that. I think I would remember if I had done that, so I don't believe I did that. And you know that would have been inappropriate behavior for you to have done that, right? Yes, and you do your best to follow the rules, correct? I conduct myself professionally. I do that, yes. And did you conduct yourself professionally on 3/20/2004? Yes, and so I'm certain if you had placed the underwear on the lamp, that would have been unprofessional conduct, yes. And your first name, is it Larry? Yes. Thank you, sir. Do you have any nicknames that you go by? No. Okay, thank you, officer. No further, Your Honor. All right, additional questions on behalf of the people. Officer, was it your job to overlook the resident that was in the house? No. Did you ever focus on her at all? No. Did you ever have any conversations with her where she actually told you that she was under the influence of meth? No. Did you have any conversations with her at all? No. Were you there to investigate the case at all? No. What was your sole reasoning for being there? To take photos, and is that it? Yes. Not to examine whether or not she's under the influence of drugs? No. Not to violate her for any type of felony probation? No. Was it your job there to run the scene? No. Whose job was that? That's typically the handling officers. And who was that? Officer Black and Officer Vance. Oh, and I'm going to show you people 73 again, image ending in 142. Did you take that photo because there was a beer can there? No. Did you take the photo for any reasons like the clothes there or anything like that? No. All right. Or did you take the photo because one of the handling officers told you to? Yes, one of the handling officers told me to take the picture. Is it your recollection also that the underwear were blue? Yes. Okay, are you sure about that? Yes. Okay, nothing further. Any additional questions on behalf of the defense? Briefly, Your Honor, the incidents where you took the photos occurred March 2004, right? I believe so. I'd have to look at the original photo sheet. It was the date on it. If you saw that, would it refresh your memory? Yes. May I approach, Your Honor? Certainly. It says March 20th, 2004, 3:20. Thank you, officer. So does that refresh your memory when you responded to Spruce Drive and took the photos? That would have been the date, yes. And do you have any reason to dispute that you were then interviewed in June 2004 by Detective Little? If I could look at the report to see the date, exact date, yes, June 20th. And would you agree that your recollection of events occurring on March 20th, 2004, your memory would have been better then than it is today, a year and a half later? Yes. Now you made it very clear to us your job that day was to just take photos, right? Yes. But you know you may be called into court to testify about the photos that you've taken. Yes. And typically it's related to the crime that's being investigated, right? Yes. So you'd agree that you don't get to just bury your head in the sand and say, hey, I was just taking photos, right? I'm going to object as to argumentative sustained. You'd agree that as a police officer, it is important that after you've been to crime scenes that you have an ability to recall the events as they occurred, right? Yes. In fact, the prosecution relies on your ability to remember events in the past, right? Yes, I believe everybody does. So we should be able to rely on your statements to Detective Little that on June 20th, 2004, the woman didn't appear upset or distressed, right? You mean Officer Rios, right? I'm sorry. Yes, thank you. Yes, we should be able to rely on your testimony that the woman in the apartment didn't appear to be under the influence based on your observations, right? Yes, and we should be able to rely on your testimony here today that you simply knocked the underwear off of your holster and did nothing else with that. Yes. And you're being honest about that? Absolutely. Thank you. Any more questions? Yes. Your assessment of whether that lady was upset, was that based on less than 1 minute of viewing her? I mean, how long did you actually look at her, officer? I never actually looked at her. I had seen her in the area as I saw several other officers. Okay, and was that a question of when Detective Little or Detective Wyatt was interviewing you? Did she appear upset? When she answered no, she didn't really appear upset. Was that based on the fact that you'd only seen her for less than how many seconds? Would you say you focused on her at all? I don't think I ever focused on her. Okay, nothing further, Your Honor. No further, Your Honor. Thank you. This witness need to be subject to recall? No. Be excused, Your Honor. All right, sir, you're excused. Thank you very much. Thank you. You're welcome. We can do something briefly within 10 minutes. If you think we can make meaningful headway, sure. Thank you, Your Honor. The people will call Detective Little to the stand. You do solemnly state that the evidence you shall give in this matter shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. I do. Thank you. Please be seated and state your name for the record, spelling your first and last name. First name is Susan, S-U-S-A-N. The last name Little, L-I-T-T-L-E. Detective Little, have you ever testified before? Yes, sir. All right, so you're familiar with the rules for testifying? Yes, sir. Mr. Zach, you may inquire, sir. Thank you. Detective, can you tell us what you do for a living, ma'am? I'm a police officer, detective for the City of Northland Police Department. How long have you been a detective for? 7 years. And prior to the 7 years of detective work, did you work as a sworn peace officer? Yes. Okay, how long have you been a sworn peace officer in total? 20 years. As a detective, are you assigned to a particular type of crime? Yes. Okay, what is that? I work sexual assault and child abuse. Now, I want to talk very particularly about one thing right now, okay, and that is, are you familiar with the key cards at your Northland Police Department? Yes. Okay, when do you use them? Upon entering a building. Okay, a station? Yes. We've talked about 2 different stations, Yale and Arrow. Are those both Northland Police Department stations? Yes. Any difference in them, or is it just location? Location and the type of people that are assigned to each station. Are you familiar with what station? Do you know who Jim Black is? Yes. Okay, do you recognize him in the courtroom today? Yes. Can you describe what he's wearing and where he's seated? He is seated, the gentleman sitting in the middle of the other 2 at this table, wearing a navy blue or black suit and a multicolored tie. Your Honor, may the record reflect the witness identified the defendant? Yes. All right, at any point, which station was he assigned to in March of 2004? Arrow Station. Okay, if someone's assigned to Arrow Station, do they sometimes still go to the Yale Station? Yes. Why? Could be for a variety of reasons. They may have a prisoner, they may need to use the restroom, they may be getting copies of reports for court. Okay, is it common for officers to use different stations? Somewhat. All right, now in order to get into the station, you said you'd use a key card? Yes. Would it be fair to say also that someone could also get into a station without the key card? Yes. Okay, maybe if they were with someone with a key card? Yes. During your investigation, did you investigate this case? Yes. During your investigation, were you able to obtain key card records showing when different people entered different stations, Arrow and Yale? Yes, I believe another detective in my unit actually obtained the records. Okay, have you seen the records? Yes. Okay, now, Your Honor, I believe there's been a stipulation to authentication and foundation stipulated by defense. All right, the court will accept that stipulation. Thank you. I'm going to show you what's pre-marked as People 74. May I approach? All right, before you do, is People 74 the subject matter of the stipulation for foundation? Yes. Yes, Your Honor. All right. So then can the court receive it into evidence as properly authenticated? Yes, Your Honor. No objection. All right. The court will receive Peoples 74 into evidence then. Thank you. You may approach. Thank you. Do you recognize this 2-page document? Yes, I do. What is it? There are 2 separate pages from different locations within a printout. Okay, I noticed there are 2 different highlighted people on this printout. Who are those people? One is Jim Black and the other is Officer Tyler. Okay, I'm now showing you what's pre-marked as Peoples 74. On the first page, I think it says highlighted card holder, then Russell H. Tyler. Is that the gentleman, the officer that was testifying earlier today? Yes. And let me use this laser on the left side, right underneath it. It's highlighted. It says 3/20/2004, 7:18:38 a.m. What does that mean? That would be showing the time that the key card was accessed or scanned upon entry. Okay, do you know which building this is? Yes, it says Yale Street East entrance. Okay, and then to the right of it, it says granted 3/20/2004, 7:18:36 seconds. Does that mean he got in or the door opened? Yes. All right. That will conclude our Q&A practice.